Hello everybody. In this video I will talk about two things. First, I will discuss ways to identify if a given example is an example of simple random sample. And then second, I will discuss the difference between stratified and cluster methods. Usually these are the two most problematic topics, so that's what we're gonna do in this video. Okay, so let's say I'm interested in the proportion of students at FCC that speak a foreign language, and I would like to collect a sample of 20 students. All right, there's a couple of different ways I could have done it. Let's say I just go into one of my classes, I teach 5 this semester, and I just survey those students. Now, this will not be a simple random sample. This will be what we call convenience sample. Convenience. It is convenient for me to just go into a classroom and ask the students that are already present, but it's probably not the best way to do so. Now remember, in simple random sample, what has to happen? A collection of 20 students, any collection of 20 students at FCC should have an equal chance of being selected. So for this one, it's definitely not a simple random sample because the only collection that has a chance of being selected is the class that I choose. So this, the first one, is not a simple random sample. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. What if I just obtain a list of all students' names and select every 50th? Well, I just decided 50 is the number and that's what I'm going to do. Now we know this is not a simple random sample because it's systematic. Okay, this is a systematic sampling. Not every collection of 20 students has a chance of being selected. If the student is not in the 50th position, then this student cannot be selected. So again, this is not a simple random sample. Let's take a look at the next one. If I just pick any 20 odd numbers and select the students that correspond to those numbers in the list, it might seem like it is a simple random sample, but it's still not. No, this is not a simple random sample because only the students that are listed with odd numbers have a chance of being selected. So that's no good. Not a simple random sample. So the only true way of selecting a simple random sample would be to use what we call random number generator. There's many ways of one can use such a thing. You can use a calculator. There are programs online that will produce 20 different numbers, and then I would take these numbers and match them to the numbers in the list and talk to those students. Okay, so the last one is the only example in this list that represents a simple random sample. Okay, now that this is done, let's go ahead and talk about the difference between stratified and cluster sampling. They might seem very much alike, and they are, but there is a slight difference between those two. Let's consider another scenario. Suppose I would like to survey statistics students this semester and ask them whether they like the new book that we're using. Well, there are 16 sections and I only teach 2 of them, so there's 14 other sections that are taught by other instructors. Of course, I cannot go to every single class and ask all students. So what are my options? I can randomly generate, let's say, 3 numbers. Okay, so let's say I generated numbers. My random number generator produced 3, 7, and 11. Okay, so these would be the sections that I would go in and survey students. So then I would go and select students here in section 3. 7 would be this section right here. And 11, what would that be? This is 12. Okay, this one right here. All right, so I would go in and survey all students in each one of these sections. All right, so these students in these sections would be representing my sample. Okay, so this is what a cluster method would be in this case. Now, what would be the difference between stratified and cluster? Okay, in this case, what would I do is the following. I would take a simple random sample from every one of these sections. So maybe I would take 5 students randomly selected from each one of these sections. Okay, and then I put them together, and that's going to be my sample. Oops. Sample. Okay, so what is the main difference between the two methods? In the stratified method, you would take a simple random sample from every one of these stratas, right? Every one of these sections, I would select a small sample, and that would combine my sample of interest. In the cluster method, you would randomly generate numbers and then assign those to particular strata, and then you would take all people in these sections or clusters, and that would be your sample. That's the main difference between these two. Okay, thank you for watching.